Nurses harden their stance, calling for a double-digit pay increase. The threat of further strikes loom for the NHS, but government ministers call it unrealistic.
We had a settlement, we have a deal, and that's what we need to get on with, to get that £5,000 into hard-working nurses' pockets this year.
Judgment Day for President Erdogan as voters go to the polls in Turkey. Chelsea make it 3 in a row at the Women's FA Cup final, and the morning after Eurovision's big night, we have an exclusive interview with Sweden's winning entry, Loreen.
Yeah. What did you do after the victory? Did you go to a party?
Oh, darling, I'm not a party chick. I'm the most boring person you've never seen.
Really?
This is ITV News with Romilly Weeks.
Good evening. Hopes of any imminent end to the nurses' strikes are fading tonight, with the head of a leading union suggesting they want to negotiate a double-digit pay rise. The Royal College of Nursing's Pat Cullen had originally urged her members to accept the government's offer of a 5% increase. She now says she underestimated nurses' determination to fight. The government insists the offer on the table, which has been accepted by 14 unions, is a good one. Our political correspondent Harry Horton reports.
After 6 months of walkouts, RCN members are gathering for their union's annual conference in Brighton, considering whether to push ahead with strikes until Christmas.
I hope we don't have to strike any longer. I really hope. But at the moment, I don't see how, the politicians are willing to listen to us.
I don't like strike because I can't play with life of patient, but this is the way things are going.
The center of what we do is the patient, and if nothing is done, the patient care is impacted.
Last month, Royal College of Nursing members voted to reject the government's latest pay offer against the advice of their union's leader, Pat Cullen. Now, she wants to see a double-digit pay rise for nurses. Ministers are unimpressed.
I think it's absolutely extraordinary that Pat Cullen's now come back and said, no, actually, second thoughts, don't accept that. I mean, we had a settlement, we have a deal, and that's what we need to get on with, to get that £5,000 into hard-working nurses' pockets this year.
In March, the government reached a pay settlement with health unions. The RCN advised members to accept a 5% pay rise plus one-off payment. But in April, RCN members narrowly chose to reject the offer. A majority of other health unions voted to accept the deal earlier this month. Next week, the RCN will seek a fresh strike mandate from members in a month-long ballot. But even Labour now says reopening pay negotiations is unrealistic.
Now, we've got to a point, obviously other unions have voted to accept the deal, so I think reopening the entirety of negotiations isn't a realistic position to be.
After spending winter and spring on the picket lines, nurses must now decide whether extending their strikes through the summer will persuade ministers to improve their pay offer.
And Harry joins me now. Harry, of course, this isn't the only strike headache the government's facing.
Yeah, lots of other strikes going on. Other health strikes. Tomorrow, senior doctors, consultants will be balloting their members to see whether they want to take strike action later this year. Junior doctors have been on strike. They're in talks with the government at the moment. And then, of course, we've seen rail strikes this past week, and there could be more teaching strikes later this year as well. Now, none of this is helping Rishi Sunak deliver his key priorities, in particular his pledge to try and halve inflation this year, to try and grow the economy and cut NHS waiting lists. That isn't helped by all these health strikes, of course. So this is a bit of a headache for the Prime Minister. I'm not sure he expected strikes to be going on for this long. Now, ministers aren't explicitly ruling out further talks with health unions and with the Royal College of Nursing. I think what ministers will be looking at is the results of these ballots that are going on over the next month to see what level of support there is from grassroots members, from nurses, for further strike action. And based on the results of those ballots, I think the government will decide its approach going forward. But certainly a bit of a headache for the Prime Minister and the government at the moment.
Absolutely. Harry, thank you. The polls have closed in Turkey this evening, with voters deciding whether to oust their leader, who's been in power for the last 20 years. President Erdogan has been criticised for the country's economic crisis and his response to the recent earthquake, in which over 50,000 people died. In this election, seen as a potential turning point for the country, 6 of the main opposition parties have fielded a single unity candidate to oppose the president. Sangeeta Lal has this report.
The votes have been cast. Now the counting commences in an election where Recep Tayyip Erdogan is challenged by an opposition that has united against him. In an election his critics believe is their best chance to change their country's future.
We're quite excited this time. We couldn't sleep last night. We are hopeful. We believe everything will be very good.
I expect to wake up in a Turkey which is fair, beautiful and peaceful, and workers get their fair share.
Once people decide, everyone else should respect that. That's enough for me.
Erdogan hopes today will secure his power for another 5 years. But during his last 20, he's already survived a failed coup in 2016, and opposition continues to grow for an increasingly authoritarian leader of a country now in economic turmoil and a cost of living crisis. At the polling station, Erdogan reassured voters things would change.
We call upon our God for the best, a better future for our country, our nation and Turkish democracy.
The man hoping to dislodge Erdogan, though, believes the president has dismantled Turkey's democracy. Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu represents a coalition of 6 opposition parties and believes this alliance is their best chance for change.
With all my heart, I'm thanking everyone who came out and voted today. We all missed democracy a lot.
One of Erdogan's main criticisms has been over his response to the earthquake that devastated the country earlier this year. For many displaced, they believe their president should have reacted quicker to avoid large-scale tragedy. For them, voting today meant returning home. Leaving the polling station, though, Erdogan was reminded of his support in an election where turnout is expected to be higher than any other, and in a year in which the Turkish Republic marks its centenary. Voters have now decided how their country's next 100 years begins. Sangeeta Lal, ITV News.
Cyclone Mocha has made landfall in Myanmar, killing at least 3 people. Winds of up to 150 miles per hour also hit Bangladesh, with thousands of refugees having to be evacuated from the city of Cox's Bazar. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz today after its government announced a new package of military aid. Weapons worth more than €2.7 billion include tanks, anti-aircraft systems and ammunition. President Zelensky is visiting allies to secure support to help his country fend off Russia's invasion and funds to rebuild after more than a year of devastating conflict. To sport now, and Wembley hosted the biggest ever crowd for a women's domestic match today. More than 77,000 fans descended on North London for the Women's FA Cup final. Manchester United were looking to secure a first FA Cup win, while Chelsea were hoping to make it 3 in a row. Chris Scudder watched the action.
Another landmark day, changing times and giant leaps forward for the women's game.
Glory, glory, Man United.
I think it's really friendly atmosphere compared to the men, and look how many children are here.
It all started during the Euros, won the Euros because the men's obviously didn't, and it just, took off from there.
You can sit with rival fans, it's not as intense. And you can just enjoy the football instead of worrying about what's going on in the crowd and what have you.
Would you like to be a professional player maybe one day?
Yeah. It's not just a man's game, it's definitely a women's game.
Inside Wembley was a picture, a world record crowd for a women's domestic match of 77,000. All in front of a future king waiting to crown the cup queens of English football. United had never beaten Chelsea before and almost made a dream start. A goal inside 20 seconds. Alas, ruled out for offside on the day the Women's Cup final used VAR for the first time. Gradually, Chelsea ground United down. If the substitute Pernilla Harder should have struck the ball harder, Chelsea need not have worried.
Here's Harder and Kerr!
Aussie Sam Kerr was in the right place at the right time to score in her third cup final in a row. United fought desperately for an equaliser, but could not quite find the killer touch.
Full time!
And that was enough for the serial winners in blue. Tears and heartbreak for last year's glory lioness Alessia Russo, but a crowning moment for Chelsea. Their third straight FA Cup and every chance of cleaning up with another league and cup double, again at United's expense later this month. Chris Scudder, ITV News, Wembley.
In the Premier League, Arsenal's hopes of a first title in 19 years look to be fading. They're in the final minutes of their must-win game against Brighton, but are currently trailing 2-0 after goals from Julio Enciso and Deniz Undav. Earlier, Manchester City continued their superb form with a 3-0 win over Everton. Erling Haaland scored his 36th league goal of the season, extending his own record. The result means City are top of the table with 3 games left to play. Thousands of runners took to the streets in Leeds today in the first ever Rob Burrow Marathon. Mr Burrow made over 400 appearances for rugby league side Leeds Rhinos before being diagnosed with motor neurone disease. He was pushed along the 26-mile route by his former teammate Kevin Sinfield before being carried over the line in an emotional end to the race. Finally, it's Europe's biggest celebration of music, but for the winner of last night's Eurovision Song Contest, the after-party was a much more subdued affair. The winner, Sweden's Loreen, told our arts editor Nina Nannar she'd never seen anything like the atmosphere in Liverpool, but her victory party was much more low-key.
Are you going to put it next to the one you won in 2012?
Yeah, I am. I actually am.
It's the day after, and Loreen still can't quite believe it.
Again, like, I don't really understand it. This is what I'm saying. Like, it takes a while for me.
You won that last night.
Did I?
Yes, you
did.
Really?
In a nail-biting finish, Sweden won its 7th Eurovision. Loreen winning her 2nd as Liverpool hosted the contest in place of war-torn Ukraine.
What did you do after the victory? Did you go to a party?
Oh, darling, I'm not a party chick. I'm the most boring person you've never seen.
Really?
I'm more of a, like, having an afternoon tea and, you know, talking to the people that I love. So I went in, I love you, 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 and then I'm like, ta-ta, I'm going to bed.
How did you think the UK and Liverpool did in hosting this Eurovision?
Amazing. This was really, I mean, the vibe in Liverpool, I haven't seen anything like it. You know, we're driving, you know, across the city and people were shining. They were having fun. The streets were bubbling. You know, it was, I'm like, I haven't seen this before. Laughing, people, smiling faces, you know, and even in the arena. It was beautiful.
Loreen's victory was certainly popular amongst the 15,000 gathered in Liverpool's fan village.
I'm so happy! It's amazing!
I'm always proud of Liverpool anyway, and then I was a bit worried. I was like, I hope they do all right. And they've knocked it out the park again, they always do. Instead, I wrote a song.
It was a disappointing night for the UK's May Muller, who came 2nd to last. But as Liverpool began its clearing up operation today, it's believed Eurovision will have boosted the local economy by around £40 million.
Liverpool didn't just host the Eurovision Song Contest, it embraced every part of it. And now, as the contest moves on, its sights set on Sweden, the people of this city can certainly look back and consider this a job well done. Nina Nannar, ITV News in Liverpool.
Well done, Liverpool. That's it for now from the Evening News team. We're back tonight just after 10.
First thing today will be lovely and warm, and by breakfast time, it could be on the sunny side. Heinz tomato ketchup, no added sugar and salt, sponsors ITV National Weather.
Hello, a very good evening to you. I hope you've had a lovely weekend. There's been some warm spells of sunshine today, but rain is beginning to work its way southwards and eastwards overnight tonight. The week will start on an unsettled note with sunny spells and scattered showers, but high pressure builds in as we go through the next few days, and temperatures will get a bit of a boost in the run-up to next weekend. Back to tonight, that rain working its way southwards and eastwards, positioning itself across the southeast before dawn. Behind it, clearer skies, perhaps a touch of frost in the far north, and a few showers feeding through before tomorrow morning. A relatively dry and bright start for many parts of the country tomorrow, except the far southeast, but that rain will push away through tomorrow morning and skies will brighten up. A day of sunny spells and scattered showers for many places. But central parts of England, Wales and the southwest will have a drier afternoon. Noticeably fresher though for all of us during the day tomorrow. A maximum temperature tomorrow afternoon in the southeast of 17 degrees. Bye-bye.
Heinz tomato ketchup, no added sugar and salt, sponsors ITV National Weather.